Hi, welcome everyone. I'm Justin Paperny, and today we're going to talk about exercising in federal prison. Before I do, I received a lot of emails and questions about my routine, books I'm reading, so I'm going to answer them really quickly. What am I reading right now? How to Talk So Your Kids Will Listen. I have a 2.5-year-old daughter who, how do I say it? She blows off about half of what I say. So this is a good book, How to Talk So Your Kids Will Listen. Trying to get better. I'm reading a book called Notes of a Dirty Old Man by Bukowski. I think there's a line in here that says, get a prison term and find out who your friends are, so sort of apropos. And I'm also reading How to Grow Old by Cicero. And I'm always sort of reading a book or something like that. So that's a few books I'm currently reading. I've also been asked about my office. I film a lot of these videos, or most of them, from my home office. What's behind me? Those are some Norman Rockwell paintings that my parents bought about 6 months before I was born in 1974. And over there in the corner is from the College World Series. In 1995, I was on the USC baseball team that participated in the College World Series. We lost the national championship game. So that is a photo of Rosenblatt Stadium in Omaha, and everyone on the team, of course, signed it. So now that I've wasted enough of your time with things that probably don't interest you, let me jump into the relevance of this video, and it has to do with exercising in federal prison. To begin, don't be like me. Don't do it. Before I surrendered to prison in April 2008, I was bloated, fat, miserable. Have you ever heard of Tito's Tacos in Los Angeles? A landmark? Believe me, I heard of it because I would make the 40-minute drive to Tito's Tacos off Sepulveda in Washington, devour the tacos. My friend Brad Fulmer would often join me. And I also liked a lot of In-N-Out Burger, as I wrote about in Lessons from Prison. My point is, I didn't exercise before I went to prison. I ate poorly. I thought life was over because I was going to jail, and I made a lot of bad decisions. It's part of the reason I felt like I was already in prison before I actually went. So before you go to prison, begin to exercise. Walking, stretching, running, do something. Okay? Begin to exercise before you go to prison. Because what happens is you surrender and it's like, oh my God, you see this track 50 yards in front of you, 100 yards in front of you. You have all of this time on your hands. So it's very easy to want to become an Olympic athlete, to jump right in and pursue what I bet is one of your highest values in prison: fitness, health, getting stronger. So of course you're going to want to exercise a lot inside a federal prison. The problem is you can get hurt very easily if your body is atrophied over a period of years, as was the case with me. Maybe I'll put up a photo of my love handles before I went in. It was no joke, okay? Imagine 10 years ago, chubby and fat. I got some chubby cheeks to begin with. Imagine 9 years and 40 pounds ago, okay? Start before you go in so you don't get hurt immediately after you get there. I got hurt. I powered through it. My runs were miserable, in part because the shoes I was wearing had tons of holes in them before I could buy new shoes. Exercise before you get into federal prison. The transition will be easier. Number 2, create a routine that you can actually take home. For example, are you going to be able to exercise for 4 to 8 hours a day when you are released from federal prison? Probably not. In Lessons from Prison, which is a book you should read, it's free. I wrote about a conversation I had with my colleague and mentor, Michael Santos. And in the book, I was lamenting because I was still a little arrogant, spoiled, and I was still doing some stupid things. And in the book, I wrote how I was kind of complaining to Michael over how some men seem to watch TV all day or complain all day, play spades all day. And the irony was I was simply exercising all day. And Michael really called me out on it. He's like, Bud, you may not be watching TV all day, but all you've done to adjust in prison is exercise. Are people going to pay you to do pull-ups when you go home? Are people going to pay you to run miles? That's all you do all day. So you're making fun of these other guys. You do this, you've adjusted differently with exercise. And it was sort of an aha moment for me. And he was absolutely right. And I should have been embarrassed that I even said it. And I'm still a little embarrassed that I thought it because I was already in prison and beginning to reform myself. But clearly not as far along as I should have been. So I can tell you I've run into at least 20 people since my release from prison in the San Fernando Valley, Calabasas, Encino. Some I talk to, some I don't. In 19 of those cases, every one of the people with whom I ran into had put all of the weight back on and then some. And it's demoralizing for them. Let me be really clear. One thing that is measurable and specific is getting fit in prison. And then to come home and put it all back on, like I said, is demoralizing. The problem is twofold. One, they didn't cultivate new habits. They didn't really develop the discipline of exercise. They did it to help pass the time. I'm at the point now with exercise where I don't need discipline to run, just like I don't need discipline to brush my teeth. I don't run like I did in prison. I ran 10 miles every day. Now maybe I run 5, and my values have changed as I've gotten older with a business and family and other interests that I like to pursue, but it's still ingrained in me. So you have to develop the habit of exercise, but you also have to exercise in doses you can maintain when you come home. There's no good exercise for 6 hours a day, walking that track, losing the weight, and then you come home and you're going to put it back on if you can't do 6 hours a day. Okay, it happens all the time. I want to talk about joining classes, exercise classes in federal prison. Now, admittedly, I prefer to run and exercise alone. In fact, I've been told by a number of people that I'm not the best small talker. In fact, Kathy Kaplan, who is an essential member of my team, I love her, couldn't do any of this without her. Many of my clients, they love her. She's great. She's also very honest. She's a very good golfer, by the way. She's got this great hand action, while she's chipping. Anyway, Kathy said to me in December, you're not really into small talk, are you? And I said, have you been speaking to my wife? Yeah, I'm not the best small talker. I've tried. I've been to some dinner parties where I'll try to engage in some small talk. Have you seen the new Star Wars film? Do you know anyone that's been to prison? It just sort of comes out of me, I suppose, the prison type stuff. And I'm not even saying it to joke. I'm not the best small talker. So for that reason, I didn't want to do exercise classes. I didn't want to do the ab class or the Taibo class or the burpees class. You can do it. For me, I wanted to go at a pace that I can control, that I knew I wasn't going to get hurt. I ran a lot of miles, but it was at a slow, deliberate pace. And I also didn't want to do exercise classes because I didn't want to be beholden to anyone else's schedule. So, for example, you don't want to be beholden to 3 softball practices a week. Think about that for a second. There's actually softball practices 3 or 4 days a week in federal prison as you prepare for the weekend game. There's soccer, there's softball, there's volleyball, there's bocce ball, there's tennis. All of those things are fine and they do qualify as exercise, but I'm not sure it's in your interest to have to go to classes or practices during the week because upon your release, you're not going to be a professional softball or tennis player. So it's moderation, exercising in dosages that you can maintain when you come home. If not, you're going to put a lot of the weight back on. And also deciding if exercise is for you. Further, if you are going to exercise, a quick prison tip, be careful if you sign up for classes. Take your time and adjust the culture of confinement before you start paying people to train you. I've gotten some calls over the years where family members have signed up. A prisoner signed up for a class. They're so happy with how the class is going. And then the prisoner leading the class says, my fee was $10 a week and now it's $20 and then it goes to $40. And this new prisoner who is adjusting to life on the inside is like, do I continue to pay? Like, what if I don't pay? What are the repercussions? I'm a loner. I'm not the best small talker. There are benefits to that. Not necessarily when you're at a dinner party with your wife, but there are benefits when you're on the inside and you walk around with your earbuds in all day, exercising, by yourself at a pace you can control. Last tip about exercising in federal prison, be careful of injury. I have had clients say to me, Justin, I have followed all of your advice, and probably the only thing I didn't follow was playing in a softball game or a soccer game and getting hurt. The unfortunate reality is healthcare in prison it's just not great. Despite what the Bureau of Prisons will tell you, or what these private prison companies tell their shareholders in these prospectuses, the truth is medical care in prison is terrible. So you have to be very careful about getting hurt, because if you get hurt at home, you call 911, people can drive you to the hospital. If you get hurt in prison, you tear your ACL or break your ankle, they're not allowed to pick you up. The prisoners can't pick you up and carry you to medical. You have to wait. They're not allowed to touch you or help you. You're all inmates. You have to wait. And you'll never be the same because despite what they tell you, they're not going to treat you to the degree that they should. Some injuries are inevitable. I developed a hernia in prison. I slipped in the kitchen. I asked them if they would tend to me. They basically laughed me out of the office and said, you're going to be home in 6 months. So I came home and paid a lot of money to a doctor at UCLA. Part of the journey, that's the way it goes. So as we wrap up talking about exercise in prison, let me close with, or reiterate, begin to exercise before you surrender. If you do, you won't go all in and get hurt because your body is just not used to the exercise. Create a routine that you can take home with you. If it's an hour a day, if it's 2 hours a day. Admittedly, my first few months in prison, it was like 5 to 6 hours a day. Then I began to transition to 2 hours a day, which is about what I maintain now, probably a little bit less. I've been home 9 years. My life is much busier than it was when I came home, but I'm still exercising in dosages that I was able to maintain in prison. Be careful if you're going to join exercise classes. Be very careful about getting hurt and make the most of the experience. And what I don't want, and the reason that you're really watching this video, not to learn what books I'm currently reading, it's this reason. You will achieve some really specific goals in prison. One of them should be fitness, weight loss, getting stronger. It is demoralizing every time I run into some of these fine men with whom I serve time who say to me, dude, I put all of the weight back on, the food, the drinking, the travel. It sucks and I'll never be able to lose it again. It's just too hard. It's too hard to get back into the gym. I kind of missed the 6 hours a day I had walking the track at Taft or Lompoc or Sheridan. Take that into your calculus. Fitness is a specific goal you will be able to take with you upon your release from prison. Work hard, cultivate the habit of discipline, ingrain the habit, and get to the point where you no longer need discipline to exercise, just like you don't need discipline to tell your wife, I love you, or your children, I'm proud of you, or the discipline that you don't need to brush your teeth every day. I hope you found this video useful. Please like it, subscribe, leave a comment, either good or bad. And thank you for checking out my channel. I'll be back here soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.